Good morning and welcome to the 2021 Grace County High School Veterans Day celebration. At this time, I'm going to ask any student, staff member, or staff member currently at Grace County High School, if you have a family member who has or currently is serving in the United States military, I would like you to stand. This day touches almost every family in this high school. And so out of respect for your family, for your community members, I'm going to ask you, number one, if you have a hood on, to remove your hood. And if you have a cell phone, please put it away and silence it out of respect for your family. Please be seated. In 1954, President Dwight D. Eisenhower signed a bill proclaiming November 11th as Veterans Day and called upon Americans everywhere to rededicate themselves to peace. Today's program is to honor all veterans of the armed forces. These men and women were called to be a part of something bigger than themselves. They were ordinary people who responded in extraordinary ways during extreme times. They rose to the nation's call because they wanted to protect a nation which has given them and us so much. When Francis Scott Key wrote the Star-Spangled Banner in 1814, he called America the land of the free and the home of the brave. Those words are as true today as they were then. And throughout this nation's history, Americans have bravely answered the call to defend our freedom, to aid our friends and allies, and to turn back aggressors. We can never fully repay our debt of gratitude to the more than 650,000 American service members who died in battle, or the 1.4 million who were wounded. We can, however, recognize and thank the 25 million veterans still living today. At this time, I would like to introduce Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Alex Medley.
At this time, please stand in honor of the American flag as the Gerald C. Color Guard enters the stadium and remain standing for the playing of the national anthem.
to call him.
You may be seated. America the Beautiful began as a poem written by Catherine Lee Bates in 1895, simply titled America. Later, composer and church organist Daniel A. Ford adapted the poem and combined it with a church hymn he wrote in 1882. The combination of Ford's music with the Bates poem was first published in 1910 entitled America the Beautiful. The song is one of the most popular of the many U.S. patriotic songs.
Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Jason Caldwell, Colonel in charge of GRTC. It's a pleasure for me to be here. I think this is the first time we've had an assembly in almost 2 years. It's good to see everyone in the same gymnasium at the same time. This year we are recognizing the veterans from the Vietnam War. For the most part, these veterans from Vietnam never had a welcome home ceremony or parade like their fathers did returning from World War II. They never had a welcome home ceremony or parade like their sons or daughters, or even their grandsons and granddaughters did receiving during Operations Desert Storm, Iraqi Freedom, or operations in Afghanistan. We can't fix that today. However, we hope to make some positive memories for those veterans who are with us today. When I returned from many tours in Iraq, we were met with color guard, bands, guest speakers, media, crowds of cheering families. It was a big celebration, regardless of the time of day or how many soldiers on the flight. That's the way it should be. The veterans from Vietnam, they didn't get that. Veterans from Vietnam didn't get that. Typically, when they returned, they were on a flight by themselves. They landed at an airport, a civilian airport, no one was there to greet them. They went on about their day with no fanfare at all. This war lasted 16 years in Vietnam. Most of the over 2.7 million who served there volunteered. Almost 2/3 volunteered. The other third were drafted. With us today, we have we're honored 4, only 3 could make it. Local Vietnam veterans. They're not only local Vietnam veterans, they have grandchildren that are members of the Grace County High School. The cool part is their grandchildren are here and they're going to introduce their grandparents. We're going to go in alphabetical order. I'm going to call the students up first because they're going to introduce their grandparents. Grayson Baker. John McCall, Luke Nessler, and Nathaniel Cole. First introduction will be by Grayson Baker.
I would like to recognize my granddad, Chief Warrant Officer 5, Kenneth Baker. My grandfather was originally from Ransomville, New York, now lives in Conway, Arkansas. At 18, my granddad volunteered and went on his own. First served in the Navy Seabees from October 1967 to October of 1973. He was in the U.S. Reserves from March of 1983 to September of 1984. Then from September 1984 to October 1990, he was active duty Army. And then of October of 1990 to May of 2009, he was in the National Guard. My granddad made the rank of Chief Warrant Officer 5 in the U.S. Army with the National Guard. While in Vietnam, he served in Dong Pa, Con Thien, Khe Sanh, LZ Stud, Hoa Viet. This was from June of 68 to June of 69. And he wanted me to mention that he was rough around the edges, some may say, until he found the Lord in August of 1973.
Next will be Sean McCall.
I'm honored to recognize my grandfather, Bobby Hodge. He was born and raised and still to this day lives in Fancy Farm, Kentucky. He was 21 when he was drafted into the United States Army. He served in the U.S. Army from 1969 to 1971. He served as a cavalry armored personnel carrier crewman. He was sent to Tu Lai, Vietnam in January of 1970. Only 2 months later, he was in an accident and was injured on March 8, 1970 by a pressure plate landmine that his track vehicle ran over. It took him months to recover from those wounds. He was later transferred to a base hospital in Kentucky where he continued his recovery process. He was also awarded the Purple Heart and Bronze Star from his service in Vietnam.
Next is Luke Nessler.
I'm honored today to recognize my grandfather, Joel Nessler. He was born and raised from the Paulsonville community and currently lives in Mayfield. My pop was 22 years old when he was drafted to the United States Army. He served in the Army from 1968 to 1970. He served as an infantryman in the United States Army's 25th Infantry. During his time in Vietnam, he served in a place called Cu Chi, Vietnam from 1969 to 1970. While in Vietnam, he
carried an M60 machine gun. He was awarded 2 Bronze Stars, 1 for bravery, 1 for service, the Army Flying Medal, the Combat Infantry Badge, and many other medals. While in the country, he fought on the front lines for the majority of the time. Mr. George Wright, a friend from back home, helped get him off the front lines and transitioned to a clerk's position prior to him being discharged. This has turned into a lifelong friendship, and he is very thankful for this generous act done by Mr. Wright. Now I'm proud to introduce someone I look up to very much, my hero, my grandfather, Bill Nestler.
Nathaniel Cole will be next. His grandfather is not here at surgery, but he's with our thoughts and prayers.
And I would like to recognize my grandfather, Darrell Poe. He was born in DeKalb, Illinois, and currently lives in Hickory, Kentucky. At the age of 18, he joined the U.S. Navy on his own terms and served in the U.S. Navy from 1974 to 1980. He was an aviation maintenance mechanic, where he worked on the F-4 Phantom jets. While serving in Vietnam, he was stationed in Saigon, South Vietnam, from 1974 to 1975. He was part of Operation Frequent Wind, which was part of the fall of Saigon. For those who may not know, Operation Frequent Wind was the final phase of the evacuation of Saigon. They evacuated more than 7,000 U.S. civilians and at-risk Vietnamese families and individuals. This event lasted from 29 to 30 April of 1975. He said that it is comparable to the recent fall of Kabul, Afghanistan, and his cousin was KIA in 1968 at the age of 19, was awarded the Purple Heart.
Please stand, please give those a round of applause for the service. You may be seated. Mr. Bobby Hodge, the Purple Heart recipient, is going to read a poem that was given to him not that long ago.
I am a veteran. You may not know me the first time we met, but I'm just another you see on the street. But I am the reason you walk and breathe free. I am the reason for your liberty. I am a veteran. I work in the local factory all day. I own the restaurant just down the way. I sell your insurance. I start your IV. I've got the best looking grandkids you'll ever see. I'm your grocer, your banker, your child's school teacher, your plumber, your barber, your family's preacher. But there's a part of me you don't know very well. Just listen a moment. I've a story to tell. I am a veteran. I joined the service while still in my teens. I traded my prom dress for camouflage grenades. I'm the first in my family to do something like this. I followed my father. I keep following his. Defying my fears and hiding my doubt, I married my sweetheart before I shipped out. I missed Christmas, then Easter, the birth of my son. But I knew I was doing something that had to be done. I served on the battlefront. I served on the base. I bound up the wounded and begged for God's grace. I gave orders to fire. I followed commands. I marched into conflict in far distant lands. In the jungle, the desert, on mountains and shores. In bunkers, in inns, in dark earthen floors, while I fall on the ground, in the air, on the sea. My family and friends were home praying for me. For the land of the free and the home of the brave, I faced my demons in foxholes and caves. Then, when dreaded near day, without rumor or fight, I lost an arm. My buddy, Dennis Martin, Sweetsburg, New Jersey, lost his life. I came home and moved on, but forever was changed. The pearls of war in my memory remain. I don't really say much. I don't feel like I can. But I left home a child and came home a man. There are thousands like me, thousands more who are gone. But their legacy lives as time marches on. White crosses in rows and names carved in pure remind us of what these brave souls had to do. I'm part of a fellowship, a strong, mighty band of each man, each woman, who has served this great land. And when all glory flies, I stand proud, I stand strong. I'm proud. I'm helping to keep her flame over you, over all. I am better.
I'm going to give these three gentlemen a coin. Grace County High School Jefferson Challenge Point for their time in service, the time they spent with us today. Do me a favor when you go home, about everybody split up. Ms. Gregory said we had a veteran. Contact that veteran today. Tell them thank you. I appreciate everybody's attendance today. Again, thank you guys for coming.
Irving Berlin wrote God Bless America in 1918 while serving in the U.S. Army at Camp Upton and Yankee, New York, but decided that it did not fit his military review, and so he set it aside. 20 years later, in 1938, with the rise of Adolf Hitler, Irving Berlin, who was Jewish and had arrived in the U.S. from Russia at the age of 5, felt it was time to revive it as a peace song. God Bless America was introduced on Armistice Day broadcast in 1938. To further honor the brave men and women who have or are now serving in the military, Grace County High School Orchestra will perform to reap the blessings of freedom. This medley includes the official hymns of the Navy and Coast Guard, the Air Force, the Marines, and the Army. As each hymn is played, please stand if you serve or if you have family members that serve in that branch.
While Veterans Day is primarily a tribute to our country's living veterans, and Memorial Day is typically a tribute for troops that have fallen. It is always appropriate to include a moment of silence, respect for those who gave their lives for our country. The bugle call of taps began a signal for lights out at the end of the day. However, the playing of taps continues to be a part of military funerals and memorial ceremonies. Today, taps will be performed by senior band guests and accompanied by the high school wind ensemble. Please stand for the playing test. Thank you to our veterans and all of our guests for joining us today and for your service, partner. Thank you as well to our Fine Arts program and GCHS ROTC program.